Hello everyone and welcome to another video of Vivek Learns. In the last video we had solved this problem where we tried to convert a number which is in any base and we try to try to convert it to some other base, right? So in this video let's continue solving the next questions of the PepCoding Level 1 functions and arrays module. So let's go to the next question, which is any base addition. You are given a number base b. You are given two numbers n1 and n2 of base b. You are required to add the two numbers and print their values in base b. Okay, so let's consider an example. So this is the base that we have. These are the two numbers that we have. So the output of this will be 1000 in terms of octal. So let's try to solve this. So how will we solve this? For this, let's consider our example. Suppose we have octal numbers and we have something like 7777 plus 77. So what will be the output? So what we'll do is that we'll get the digit of this number, let's say D1, and the digit of the second number. And what we'll do is we'll add 7 and 7. So 7 plus 7 is 14. But 14 is not present in octal, right? Like 14 is just the decimal representation. So how do we have that octal representation? We do by 7, 14 by 7 or 14 by 2, 14 by 7 or 14 mod 2. So 14 by 7 will give us 2 and 14 mod 7 will give us 0. So what does this represent? So the number which is here is 7 times this number. So this is nothing but 49 times this, right? So how will we represent that? So if we want to carry forward that number, what we can do is we can have some kind of logic to divide it by 7. So 14. 14, how do we represent in 14? How do we represent in terms of 7 is 14 is 2 times 7, 7 plus 0. So what we can do is we can have something like 0 here and we can carry forward 2 because this number is 2 times, right? And this the place value here is 7 times the place value in the units place. And what do we have after this? We have the same thing. 7 plus 7 is 14 plus 2 is 16. So if we do 16 by 2 by 7, we get, what do we get? 2. And if we do 16 by 16 mod 7, what we get is 16 mod 7 is also 2, right? 7 2s are 14 and we get the remainder 2. So 2 is the remainder here. So the remainder comes here, which is the thing which gets printed, and the the quotient or the answer will come here, right? And what is 7 plus 2 now? So 7 plus 2 is nothing but 9. But how do we represent 9? So we'll represent 9 as 7 into 1 plus 2. So we'll have 1, 7 into 1, right? So we'll carry forward that 1 and we'll have that 2 here. And the last thing is we have the 1 carry forward, which we'll write here. So 7 plus 2 is 9. 9 can be written as 1 into 7 plus 2. So the 2, which is the remainder, will come here, and 1 times 7, so 1 will come here. So that is how we'll approach this. So for this we'll have to get the digits, and we'll have to also see that we don't have any carry forwards at the end of the iteration, right? So let's try to solve this problem. Any base 2, any base was the last problem, and we have any base addition now, right? Any base addition. So we get a number. So first what we get is a base, right? Enter a base, enter first number, let's say. Enter second number. So I'll call this base. Let's call this num1 and this as num2. So what we'll do first is we'll get the digits. Let's say int d1 is equals to num1 mod 10 and int d2 is equals to num2 mod 10, and we'll have a carry forward also, right? So for now the carry forward is represented as CF, which is 0. So we'll have to keep iterating till we don't get the carry forward as 0 is not equals to 0, or carry forward is not equal to 0, as well as d1 is not equals 0 and d2 is not equals to 0, right? So what do we do now? We first need to check if d1 and d2 are non-zero, right? So how do we do that? If d1 is not equal to 0 and d2 is not equal to 0, right? Okay, so let's have some other variable called as int sum, which is 0. So how will we calculate the sum? So sum is nothing but d1 plus d2 plus carry forward if any. And if sum is greater than the base, right? Greater than or equal to also, right? So let's say if the base is 8, so we don't have 8 as the number. So what we do is we calculate the carry forward, which is sum by base, right? And we have the number which is done as sum mod base. For sum is equals to sum plus something like this. So we'll have to take the sum plus sum into base. So what will happen is, let's try to have this logic. So first we get 0, then we have to multiply 10 to the number that we get, right? And then we have to add the previous one. So first we get 0, then we do sum times 10, and then, oops, not this one, right? We get the sum that is already present. We do 2 into 10. Okay, and then we have something like that. Okay. Oh, sum mod base times 10, something like this. Okay, sum is equals to d1 plus d2 plus the carry forward if we have any. If sum is greater than equal to base, then we have the carry forward. Otherwise, sum is, or else, what do we have? Else, what do we have? Else, we just have the sum, right? So sum is equals to sum plus sum plus, oh, my bad. We'll have to have some other variable here. So let's say we have add result, something like this. So sum is nothing but if add result is greater than the base, greater than or equal to base, we divide the add result by the base, we get the carry forward, correct? And then we define the sum. So the sum is sum plus add result mod base, right? And then what do we do? In the else condition, if sum is, if add result is less than sum, then we do sum is equals to sum plus add result times 10, right? So this is the add result, let's say. So if this was something plain and simple as 111 plus 1, then we'll have 111, let's say. So this is 1 plus 1 is 2. So add result of 2, so sum is equals to 0 plus add result times mm, add result times 10. But we don't have to take 10 each time, right? We'll have to increment the count each time. So it's better that we have something like mod math.pow, right? So it's better that we have that here as well as here. So we have add result mod base, which will give us the remainder, and we'll do multiply it by math dot power 10 to the power, let's say, count. And we have initialized a variable called count here, which is 0 first. Okay, And we do a similar thing for you. We can have the count plus plus directly, or as well as here, or we can decrement it, increment it after this if else condition. Either way is fine. So we get that result. We multiply it by 10 to the power something, right? Okay. So what do we do after that? If we'll have to check if d1 and d2, right? We'll have to check on d1 and d2. So this is 0 here, right? So what do we do? So if num mod 10, something like this, right? Num1, let's say num1 mod 10 is equals to 0, not mod 10, it will be by 10, right? Because let's say if we have this, so if we consider this number, these two numbers, so if these two are exhausted and these two are exhausted, then we only have this number. So what will we do is we'll check if num2 is equals to 0 first, right? No. Like we can have any zero number as well, right? If num2 by 10, 0 by 10 is also 0, is 0, then we equate d1 is equals to 0. And similar will be the case for num2. Correct. So yeah, I think this might work. If d1 is equals to 0 and d2 is equals to 0, num2 by 10 is nothing but this 1 by 10, which is 0. 1 by 10 is also 0, right? No, this won't work. Num1 by 10. So I just wanted to check if d1, how do we check if d1 is exhausted or not, or num1 is exhausted or not, or num2 is exhausted or not? So suppose we have three numbers here, three digits here, and we have two digits here. So we'll automatically have to populate 0 here. So we add this and this. Okay, so we get rid of this and this. Then we add this and this. And then what we do is num1 by 10. Num1 by 10. Okay, so we'll have to recalculate the d1 and d2, right? So how do we recalculate d1 and d2? So that logic we have not written. So d1 is equals to num1 mod 10, right? And d2 is equals to num2 mod 10. But what if num2 is 0? If num2, then we'll have to decrement d1, num1 and num2 also, right? So we'll have some kind of condition here only. If num1 is not equal to 0, then only we should 1 is not equals to 0. Then only we'll have this calculation, or else we'll have d1 as 0, right? Because if d2 is exhausted, then we'll give num2 as 0, right? Yeah, I think it will work. So eventually d1 is equals to num1 mod 10, and then what we do, num1 is equals to num1 by 10, right? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think this will work. Let's try this. Num2 is not equal to 0, then d2 will be num2 mod 10 and num2 will be num2 by 10. Right. Else d2 will be 0. Correct. Or we can skip this else condition also for these two numbers, because eventually they will be 0, right? Because let's say for num2 is 0, 0 mod 10 is 0, 0 only, right? But just to be on the safer side, let's have this condition. So how will this work? Let's try to have it again. So let's say we have 777 plus 1. So carry forward is 0, d1 is 7, d2 is 7, and we get the add result as 7 plus 7 is 14. Then add result is greater than 8. So what we do is carry forward is equals to add result base 10. Right. So 14 by 14 by 2, 14 by 7, oops, 14 by 8, right? 14 by 8 is almost, what is 14 by 8? It's 8 ones are 8, and then, sorry, my bad, we have to divide by the base here, so we should have divided by 8 here and not 7. So everything we have done, this calculation was a mistake here. So let's try to do this now. So if we have 14, no, we have 8, um, we have 8 now, right? Not 14. So we do 8 by 8, which is 1. So that 1 will be carry forward here. And what we get is 0. So the add result by base is 8 by 8. 1 is carry forward. Sum result is equal to sum, which is 0 first, plus add result mod base. What is add result is 8 mod 8, uh, so that is 0, right? Times 10 to the power 0 first, right? So that will give us 0 first, correct? Then we do if num1 is not equals to 0. So num1 is not 0, right? Num1 is 777. Then what do we do? D1 is equals to num1 mod 10. Okay, so we do get the same digit again, right? We do get 7 again. So we'll have to recalibrate the conditions here somehow. So we can have num1 is not equals to 0 or num2 is not equals to 0, right? We can have those conditions instead of these. Yes, those will be the correct conditions and not these. Because num1 and num2, they both of them have to be 0 as well as carry forward have to be 0, and then we'll stop the iteration. So if num1 is not equals to 0, then what do we do? We calculate d1. d1 is num1. So we can have d1 and d2 calculations here. So let me refactor this code a bit. So we can have int d1 and let's say d2 here. If num1 is not equals to 0, then what do? We get num by 10, num1 by mod 10, that will give us d1, and then after that num1 will become 77. After that what we do, if num2 is not equal to 0, so what is num2? Num2 is 1, it's not 0. Then d2 will become num2 mod 10. Num2 mod 10 is 1. d2 will becomes 1, and num2 is equals to num2 by 10, which is 0. Right. So that is how it will work, and we don't have the if condition, else conditions now. Yeah, I think this logic should work. Finally, what do we want to do is we want to print the result. So let's try to run this once. So we have these two, let's see, and we try to add 111 and 111. So this is, let's say we try to add only one. So this is 111 is 7 plus 1 is 8. 8 is 1000, right? So the result is 0. How did we get 0? There is something which is missing. So the addition of 111, which is 7, and 1 is 8, and whose representation is 1000. We should have got 1000 here. So what is missing? We'll have to find it out. So where is the base in all these calculations? Right, we have to do mod of the base, right? Or no? Yeah, here we have to do, no, here we have done mod of the base as well as we have divided by the base, but how do we approach it? So d1 will be 1 first and d2 will be also 1, and the add result will be 1 plus 1, which is 2, right? And then we'll have add result mod by base, which is 2 by 2, which is 1. So 1 will be carry forward for the next time. So what we have is sum is equals to sum, which is 0, plus add result is d1 plus d2 by 2 mod base. 2 mod 2 is 0 times 10 to the power 0, which is 1. So sum is 1 and carry forward is 1 for the first iteration. After that, we again calibrate num1 and num2. So num1 becomes 11 right after the first iteration. Yeah, and num2 becomes 0. So d1 is equals to 1 and d2 is equals to 0. Correct. D2 is already 0 because num2 is not 0, so by default we'll have this value. So again we'll have 1 plus 1. 1 is d1 and we'll get a carry forward 1. So we'll have 1 and 0 again, right? So where are we missing the things here? So let us try to print the numbers. Maybe that will help. So we'll print the d1 plus d2 plus carry forward here. Let's try to run this. The base is, okay, let me check if I have taken the numbers properly. Yep, I have. Base is 2, 1, 1, 1, let's see, and 1. Oh, this is for any base addition, right? So why isn't this printing? It isn't going into this for loop. And there's the mistake, I think. We have to have different conditions, not this. If carry forward is not equals to 0, or we need to have OR conditions here, right? If carry forward is not equal to 0, or num1 is not equal to 0, or num2 is not equal to 0. That is where we'll have this. So let me comment this and run like the while loop wasn't running. 1, 1, 1, let's say, and 1. We should have gotten the output as 3, but we did not. So let me again try to have this. If carry forward is not equals to 0, or num1 is not equal to 0, No, this is also the wrong condition that we have, right? So as soon as carry forward becomes not equals to 0, then it will break out of the loop. So what condition do we need to have here? So we need to have something like if carry forward is not equals to 0, right? We don't want any carry forwards. And I think we had the right condition before us. If carry forward is not equals to 0 and num1 is not equals to 0 and as well as num2 is not equals to 0. So let's try to do some more debugging on this. If num1 is not equals to 0, then what do we do? Eventually num1 should become 0 here or here. Let's try to run this once more. If carry forward is not equals to 0, so carry forward is 0 first. So this will be false and it will immediately break out of this loop, right? We'll need to have some kind of OR condition here. If carry forward is not equal to 0, so for the first condition, carry forward is 0. So what do we have? We'll get carry forward is not equals to 0. So this will be false and this will be true, right? So it will go inside this loop. Oh, so I'm confused. Do we need to have AND or operation here? I think we should have OR, right? If carry forward is not equals to 0, then we have to perform this addition. As well as if num1 is not equals to 0, then we have to perform. So this should work, right? But let's see. So this goes into an infinite loop, but let's debug from here. Oh, okay, we have to set the carry forward as 0. Else we set carry forward as equals to 0. Oops, we have utilized the carry forward, right? So where do we set the carry forward as 0? So we'll have to set it after we once we have done the addition, right? Yeah, we set it to 0. We can set it to 0 anytime, right? Then we can calculate the carry forward. correct. Let me have this here now. We add it, then we set the carry forward to 0, then we calculate the new carry forward. And if this condition is satisfied, then only we set the carry forward. Otherwise, the carry forward is 0. So let me try to run this. Or base 2 and 111 plus 1, which gives us the desired output. So let me erase this condition and try to run it again. Guess 777 plus 1. Oops. Let's try to run for this 8771, which should give us 1000. Let me run it again. 8777 and 1, which gives us 1000. Let's try for another number. 2, let's say 4 plus 2. 2 is nothing but 10, right? 4 plus 2 is 6. 6 is 110, right? So we get 110. So this is how we have solved any base addition problem. So that was all for this video. See you guys in the next one.